ทำ
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the resumption of the middle of the pack for Racing League Cruising USA GR86 Championship for 2023, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today we get proceedings back underway with round 9 of 12, and here we kick off the Southern State Cup in none other than the state of Georgia at the infamous rollercoaster ride of road racing that is Road Atlanta. And indeed, hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, this circuit with 12 corners and 2.54 mile road length span is a circuit like no other when it comes to testing a driver's stomach and indeed their confidence. With multiple undulations from start to finish, high rises and sharp falls, this is a circuit which is all about confidence and being able to carry speed from corner to corner and knowing that you're able to hit the apexes dead on the point. But if you're not able to do that, you may find yourself going to the grass, alternatively losing out on the lap time and losing out on a major result in between. As our drivers get ready to go away today on the racing, of course, let's take you through a few little bits of admin, including firstly that we should remind you this broadcast is a post-round broadcast for your viewing pleasure. What does that mean? Well, it means the racing action that you're seeing on screen occurred as of Wednesday the 22nd of March, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Saturday the 25th of March of 2023. And as for our schedule today, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time at UTC, our schedule is as follows. Because in 13 minutes time, when we head into qualifying, it'll be 15 minutes in duration. We'll see our drivers head out onto circuit in two distinct packs, more on that in a brief moment. And after the 15 minutes, we'll be taken away to the grid for what is our round 9 race, and that'll be the 30-minute sprint kicking off at approximately 5:30. Now, as we get ready to go as well, you're tuning in live via two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can be tuning in via youtube.com and search for TX141TX, alternatively Paul Walsh, or if you're a Twitch user, you can go to twitch.tv/TX141 and tune in there. Now, who is Paul Walsh? Who is TX141, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141, or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action over the course of today, and indeed the remainder of the rounds. And what a championship it has been so far. We have had 2 cups, and we've still got 1 to go, and with the commencement of the Southern State Cup, it's only fair that we give you a quick recap of where we've been so far. Because in this championship, which is a celebration of racing in the United States of America, indeed featuring 12 major racing locations around all the states, we started off, of course, all the way back on the 11th of January, and we're here today in round number 9 on the 22nd of March. But let's talk a little bit about the Southern State Cup firstly, at the bottom of the table there, and you can see that this cup, as its name, is a celebration of motor racing in the Southern States, and we kick off round number 9 in Road Atlanta in the state of Georgia, located near Brazelton, of course, and that'll be the first of our 3 sprints. After today, we're making our way to the Barber Motorsports Park in the state of Alabama, and that'll be on the 29th of March for our second sprint. And then we'll be heading to the state of Florida, which is where we wrap up the championship with 2 rounds. Round number 11 being at the Sebring International Raceway. Indeed, the hard concrete there will be catching out a good number of our drivers, as they're currently competing, a number of them, in the official iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring, and good luck to them. And that'll be on the 5th of April. And then in our season finale, it will of course be our 3rd and final feature race of the full calendar, and that'll be round 12 of 12 at Daytona International Speedway, with the road course there playing host to our drivers on the 12th of April. But before all of this, of course, to give you a quick recap of the previous cups, indeed the previous 8 rounds, we started off with a big state cup all the way back on the 11th of January, and that was a celebration of the largest states in the US of A, including the state of New York for round number 1 at Watkins Glen, and then we did a double header in rounds 2 and 3 at Laguna Seca and Long Beach, both located in the state of California, and then in round number 4 we made our way to the state of Texas for the Circuit of the Americas. We wrapped up the big state cup on the 1st of February, and then took the first of our 2 mid-season breaks, and then we returned for the mid portion of the cups with regards to the Midwest Cup there, indeed a celebration of the states in the Midwest region. And we start off with round number 5 at Indianapolis, and of course in the state of Indiana, the major motor speedway, and that was on the 15th of February in our first of 3 sprints. The second of them was at Mid-Ohio, the circuit located in the state of Ohio, of course, on the 22nd of February, and then we had the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle in the state Oh, what isn't it? Does elude me. Michigan, that's the one. And that was on the 1st of March there on the street circuit. The second of our 2 street courses, of course, with Long Beach being the first one. And we wrapped up the Midwest Cup at Road America last time out back on the 8th of March. And what a feature race that was, with drama all the way to the very finish. And, well, in the state of Wisconsin, it was picturesque. But I'll tell you one thing, our drivers had their eyes on the road 100% and not on the countryside. But there's still 1 cup to go. There's still plenty of prizes up on offer. And indeed, of course, we're looking to wrap up the overall championships as well as we come to the end of the Southern Southern State Cup, but time will tell who's going to be on top. But speaking of who's on top and who's not, let's give you a quick recap of our championship standings after 8 rounds. And we can see here in the Pro Division, firstly, Jason Landry leading the way on 338 points to Aaron Lars 294. The gap between the two of them standing at what is there a grand amount of 44 points. And whilst Jason Landry's win streak came to an end at last time out, the one thing that hasn't come to an end is his dominance of the Pro class, and he really is the firm favourite to win. How the Sunday GT Turtles drive, we'll find the next 4 rounds are going to be very different circuits compared to the opening 8 rounds, and will the Southern State circuits fit his driving style, or will he have to adapt rapidly? Aaron Lahr, meanwhile, in P2, in a bit of no man's land, trying to hunt Landry down, but also having broken away from Francois Schink with an advantage there, so now spanning at 25 points. He'll be hoping to make sure he can affirm that P2 position and then begin the final hunt, with Francois Schink ahead of Mika Hendricks there by a gap of 21 points, while the old rivals and friends of the circuit will show no signs of keeping things cool as they look to try and hunt down P3 and upwards. James Ogston in P5 on 236 points, equal points to Tanner Dibble, just ahead on the result count back. Now Jerome Bajulas, James Decart, John Butler and John Lauzon completing the top 10, with Carl Renew only 3 points off of the top 10 in P11 as the best of the rest, but notice the gaps there between P5 and P11, the gap only standing at what is a grand total of 33 points. Indeed, anybody could move back into the top 10, if not the top 5, by the end of the season. Matej Georgiou, meanwhile, in P12, wraps up our standings there on 76 points. We then come to the Prime class, meanwhile, and we can see here the picture is a little bit similar. We do have a championship leader who's got quite an advantage. However, compared to Jason Landry in the Pro class, Logan McKenzie does not quite have as much of an advantage, and therefore does not have a 1-round buffer, especially when drop scores are in account. In the fact that Logan McKenzie at the moment has an advantage of 26 points over Alberto Alvarez, but we saw a paradigm shift last time out. Logan McKenzie has always stayed 1 step ahead of Alvarez, but last time it was Alvarez was able to close up the gap a little bit further. And could this be a sign of things to come, or can McKenzie reinstate himself as the championship leader who's uncatchable come the next couple of rounds? Well, that is going to be the challenge, but Alberto Alvarez has been pushing hard and is finally being rewarded for it, but will he be able to continue that streak today? Craig Parks, meanwhile, in P3, continues to try and hunt down the top 2, but has broken away significantly from the rest of the pack with 241 points to the 192 of Kirk Lane, a 49-point advantage there, with Lane in return only 4 points clear of Jonathan Ballard. Indeed, if we make our way all the way down to P8 via the means of Edwin Offred, Samuel Cran and Don Sepet, the key theme here is the battle for P4 could not be closer, with Lane through to Sepet there being separated by a grand total of what is only 24 points. Keep your eyes in particular on Edwin Offred. He really has been building a lot of pace over the last couple of rounds, has jumped to P6, and he could be able tonight to potentially jump into P4, and could he be springing a late charge into the hunt for P3. Meanwhile, in P9, Ilya Speaker on 113 points, not quite on the hunt to the top 8 at the moment after an unfortunate mishap last time out of Road America, and he'll be looking to try and refine the momentum tonight. And Milan Harris completes the top 10 and 55 points, with a gap there of 25 points to best the rest Adrian Fedorowski, and then we do have Lee Porter and Carlos Hathcock completing the standings. Jermaine Warren, John Wilding and Zach Saunders yet to get any points on the board. And as we then come onto the AM class, we can see it's Fernando Takahashi who leads the way on 212 points, but here is a major change for Fernando Takahashi. As much as his rivals were able to close up to him at Road America, he still brought home the key result last time out, but he's got to stay at 1 step ahead every step of the way now to the very end of this series, because you can see there the gap between himself and Mark Senegal is 24 points. It's not a huge gap, but what's more important here, look from P2 all the way down to P12. The gap there from Mark Senegal's 188 points to Billman da Costa's 127. Well, that is a 61-point gap separating a grand total of 11 drivers. Would you believe it? And that means that right now, Mark Senegal, Dan Vitcher, Samuel Bernardi, Daniel Sedano, Ian Hennebrae, Jack Davis, Glenn Bratton, Nick Bader, Roger Ganesh, Auguste Blondell, and Billman da Costa. It's like reading out a school register here, but the key point is that they are so close in their relative pace. All of them are having huge results, particularly in the Midwest Cup, that they all have an opportunity to move into P2 come the very end. And potentially, if Takahashi starts to fall from his momentum at the top, could we see the battle for the win in the AM class go down to the wire between a grand total of 12 drivers come the finish? We would love to see it. I suspect we will see a bit of a buffer start to appear in that mid-pack, but right now the hunt is truly on, and it is an unpredictable class here, to say the least. Avon Dorsey as well. Let's not count out our 13th place driver, who on 99 points is definitely continuing to build pace, and whilst he's joined late, he could be a force to contend with in the hunt for a top 5 place come the very end. Ronnie Felker on 66 points there, keeping ahead of Ines Yuso, who's 12 points behind. And then we have PG Christensen, Dan Ocaranza, Spencer Cockayne, Dave Hernandez, and Albert Brand, who complete the standings. And as we come onto the Teams Championship, meanwhile, we can see Sunday GT Turtles continue to hold their spot at the top by 41 points over Be With Us Energy, with Team Bearpoke falling to P3, but still in the hunt there for the top two. And then DNA Motorsports leading the rest of the pack in the hunt, whereby with only an advantage there, 15 points over MOP Jedi. The challenge for DNA Motorsports is to try and close up to the top three, but break away from the rest of the pack. And with Rockefeller White also trying to rebound after a difficult set of results in the Midwest Cup, you can imagine there with 6 points over Bear Pope Zero. The hunt is on for that top 5 spot, with Pan Am Racing, Hassholes Motorsports, and Rockefeller Racing Pink completing the run to the top 10 end. We then have MOP Sif, or Middle of the Pack Sif, which is what MOP stands for, running in P11, best of the rest ahead of QZ Motorsports, who wrap up the Teams Championship. And as we come onto our circuit for today, well, it is none other than the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta, the full course, located in Brazelton in Hall County of the state of Georgia in the US of A. And as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for the wonderful circuit maps, of course. This is a circuit like no other. And a two-dimensional map does not simply provide you with enough information with regards to the undulations. Indeed, we'll ride on board with Solo Drives and qualifying so you can get a true feel of that roller coaster ride. But the key theme here is it's all about sweeping corners from start to finish. For as our drivers make their way out of the final corner of turn 12 and across the timeline towards turn 1 they'll go. They'll power their way down into the braking zone there. Will be a tap of the brakes and an uphill right-hander, and they'll want to carry as much speed as possible and keep the revs high as they go over the crest of turn 2 and into the braking zone for turn 3 immediately. It's a completely blind apex. It's downhill and you cannot see the apex curve of turn 3 from turn 2 until you've already got on the brakes and committed. So therefore you've got to know the circuit like the back of your hand. And as he or she make their way down through turn number 4, powering there all the way down and weaving their way through the S's, they'll head into turn number 5, where it's all about carrying the speed through the left-hander, but not too much, as otherwise you'll end up going wide or to the wall. Powering out of 5, they'll head down towards turn number 6 into the 2 slice corners on the circuit, the double right of 6 and 7, but they will need to get back on the power and full throttle as soon as possible in the exit of 7, because then we do have the extended back straight with the kinks to turns 8 and 9. Flat out there, they'll reach their highest top end speeds in the run to 10A, and as they break their way downhill into the depression for 10A and 10B, the chicane there interrupting our driver's pace in the run to turn number 11, and as they go up the crest and down for 11, it's flat out through 12 to complete the lap and do it all again. Now let's give you a quick reminder of our race rules very quickly, in the fact that in terms of setups, drivers shall run a fixed setup as provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and car fuel loads have been restricted to 35 litres for all rounds, and of course for the sprint races that means there is no mandatory pit stop. Meanwhile on the feature races there will be a mandatory pit stop. Qualifying wise, an open qualifying format shall be used lasting 15 minutes and split into 2 equal halves. The AM class shall take to the circuit for the first half. We'll see them for the first 7.5 minutes, and then the Pro and the Pro classes shall take to the circuit for the second half together. In the sprint race, the race will start via a grid start, as is the tradition. Each driver shall have 1 fast repair available, and a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 18 or more instant points. And should there be a major incident as the race starts on the opening lap, a safety car may be deployed at the discretion of our racing steward and administrator, and that of course is in the capable hands of Lee Porter as our race director. Otherwise, the safety car shall not be deployed during the race. So if we're going to see safety cars, they'll be early on, but enough rules, regulation, everything in between. I know what you're all here for. You're here for the racing, and we are as well. And as our drivers get themselves set here, well, a number of them in the pit lane at the moment, and only approximately 30 seconds left of this final practice warm-up session. And we can see that on the time and tell on the left-hand side of your screen, Jason Andrew, the fastest man out there currently, but look at how the Pro-Ams in particular of Alvarez, Kroom, and Speaker have all crept their way inside that top 5, and it's definitely looking as though the field here today is going to be muddled between the classes. And we do have 5 new drivers join us as of this final cup of the season, and we'll introduce them all in qualifying for you. But speaking of qualifying, as Melon Harris gets it wrong there, coming out of 10A and parks up the car. 9 qualifying's about to get underway. We see Adam Ballard making his way up the hill out of turn number 1 for Rockefeller Racing White. But we're just going to briefly cut away, ladies and gentlemen, advance to qualifying, and we'll be back within a minute to get the qualifying session underway as practice is complete. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then, and it is time for the 15-minute qualifying session. Of course, it will be our AMs who go out onto circuit first and foremost, and as they all get ready to make their way out of pit lane, well, we are just waiting to see where our cameraman's able to pick them up, and there's a Gus Blondell for Has Holes at Motorsports heading on out, and we do already have a couple of drivers who've made their way out onto circuit, including one of our leading drivers here in the Red Bull Privateer machine. He's a newcomer for this cup, and allows to introduce Dylan Velinga here as he makes his way on down through the S's, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on. He's a newcomer to Noodle Pack Racing League as a whole. He's not competed in any of our official series over the last couple of years, as I'm to understand it, or I've been informed, but he'll be running in the 247 car and looking to find his feet nice and early on here, and well, we do wish him good luck for today. In terms of his practice times, he was in the mid-pack, so I suspect he will be mixing it up with the middle portion of our AM class, and I say the middle portion as if it really exists. Really, it's the whole portion of the AM class, given how close everybody is in the AM class, and Fernando Takahashi, the man to beat, of course, but as he heads his way out at turn number 7, we also welcome in Jordan Hooks, who we see here heading on down towards turn number 6, and Hooks running there in what is the number 203 car, and do keep in mind, of course, our door numbers for our AM drives are 200 through to 299, meanwhile for our primes it's 100 through to 199, and for our pros it is 1 through to 99, of course, and that's enabled them to be distinguished from one another as Hooks makes his way on down the back straight here, another privateer driver, and running in the all grey to black livery machine, and well, can he stealth his way to the front of the field? That will be the change that is confronting him. We do have one more AM driver to introduce. He's just making his way down through the S's at the moment. He's the last AM to go out onto circuit, interestingly here, so deciding to give himself as much space as possible, and that's the 217 driver of Matt Underkoffler as he heads up towards turn number 6. And a very distinctive livery there on the car, I must say. Really stands out with the colour combination, with the medium to dark blue at the front, going to light blue in the middle portion, and across the purple pink at the rear of the car. Nice diffusion of colours there, and can he find a way to diffuse the situation of battling and potentially make his way onto the podium? Well, we'll have to wait and find out as the 217 driver makes his way through on this warm-up lap. But welcome to them. We do have 2 primes to introduce, but we'll introduce them once we do end up with the prime qualifying session. But as we look to the pack that's making its way now onto its first flying lap, as we say hello in the YouTube chat to Jerry, the race car driver. Good evening to you, Jerry. Hope you're doing well, my good friend. Indeed, if you are tuning in right now, ladies and gentlemen, do not be shy. Feel free to say hi, whether you're in the YouTube or the Twitch chat. We do not bite here at Middle of the Pack Racing League, and let us know who you're cheering on today. And of course, if you participated in this race, try not to give us any spoilers, so that way it's not spoiled for the guys and girls viewing at home. Indeed, I, as your host and commentator, do not know what happens. I've made sure to avoid any spoilers all week in and out. But as we see here, Dorsey heading on through turn number 7, of course, one of the rising stars in the class, and I think he has been ruined a little bit in the mid-season break, the fact he wasn't able to join at the start of the season, because I would say if he'd been with us from the very start of the Big State Cup, he could be right up there with Takahashi, or the delta between Takahashi and the rest of the field I don't think would be at that 24-point margin. I think it would be a lot closer, and that's not to say Dorsey would be the main championship contender, but the number of points that this man has picked up over the course of the races I've participated in has been absolutely sensational. And as he makes his way through 10A and 10B here, well, right now trying to keep it compact and composed, we see Marcelo getting the first time on the board at 138.101, and we're going to have plenty more time to come on through very shortly, as we do see Avlinga there go at P2 of 40.924, albeit I think that lap may have had a couple of errors in it as he's just trying to find his feet into the series. But meanwhile, as we do look to Ian Henneberry crossing the line there, heading up towards turn number 1, the Bearpo driver getting himself set once again, but charging on through and into the opening corner on another fast lap. But we do have a couple of drivers who are heading towards their current laps, including none other than Samuel Bernardi, and we jump on board here with one of the fastest drivers in the class. He takes us around for a flying lap of the Road Atlanta circuit. Then up towards turn number 1 here in 5th gear, and at 117 to 118 miles an hour, dabbing the brakes there as he brings the car down a gear and flows uphill towards turn number 2. Bring the car over to the centre of the road and then swing it into the blind apex of turn 2. But where's turn 3? And then suddenly there it is, but he's had to drop to 3rd gear before seeing the apex, and as he powers his way through turn 4, and that's all about throttle control as he makes his way on down up to 4th gear to help stabilise the car through the right to the left to the right, and then onto the brakes here into turn number 5. Just bring the car gently down to 3rd gear as he powers out, holding at 83 miles an hour on corner exit. He now heads up towards turn number 6, charging all the way back up the gearbox once again and looking for his brake mark on the left hand side, using the 100-yard board there, and as he comes down from 4th to 3rd, brings it through turn 6 nicely and onto the brakes in earnest here for turn number 7, down to 2nd gear. Stamps the throttle on, runs slightly wide there, but he keeps it mostly on the exit curb, so that'll count as a valid lap with 2 wheels within the white lines. And as he heads on down the back straight, it's been a smooth but aggressive approach so far from Bernardi. He's currently the provisional pole sits on a 37.521, and as he continues to build up the gearbox here, getting ready to upshift to 5th gear, you really want to maximise the RPM of this car. You want to upshift as late as possible as he heads up to 5th at long last, and then heading down through the depression here and onto the brakes, using the 100 metre ball on the right hand side as his marker, in fact the 100 yard ball we should say, and through 10A and 10B goes, connects the apex in a straight line, uses all the width for corner X. He's got traffic in front, which will benefit him as he drops down through 11 into 12. So he'll pick up a distant toe here to the end of the lap. But is it going to be an improvement from Bernardi? He's improved in the second half of the lap. He does improve further. It's a 37.039. That puts him 6 tenths faster than anybody else so far. Presuming, of course, all the laps do stand. That's one of the disadvantages of the fact we're looking at a replay file on iRacing. We don't know if a lap has been invalidated or not, so all the laps will stand until proven otherwise. But we can see that all 12 of our AM drivers putting lap times in, and right now the battle for pole position in the AM class. Well, I think right now Bernardi will feel as though he's done more than enough, but meanwhile Avon Dorsey 6 tenths off at this time in the 287 Rockefeller Racing white machine, and he'll be hoping he can find just a little bit more lap time. As we do say in the Twitch chat there to Kamaru75, good afternoon to you, Kim. Hope you're doing well. But as we see Dorsey heading on down the backstretch now, the thing for Dorsey will be, if he can't get this done in qualifying, what can he then do in the race? Because remember, all of our drivers, we line up on the grid together, all three classes will intermingle, and could that gap of 6 tenths, if it stands, could that see a Pro-Am or a couple of Primes or even a Pro be sandwiched between Dorsey and Bernardi? And that's the thing that Dorsey will not want to see. He will not want drivers at other classes in between. So remember, our drivers score points in the races based on overall position, not their class position. Only the AMs and the Primes will care a little bit more about class position, for the simple reason they will be getting some bonus points if they're on the podium. But as we see it, Dorsey heading across the timeline, he set it all up for one final lap here, 30 seconds to go, and of course our drivers are allowed to finish the lap they're on when they are called into the pits. They are given that opportunity, and the Primes and the Pros will be released in a safe manner behind. But meanwhile, Gus Blondell heading it through the final corner here for Hassel's Motorsports, and running the Gunter Steiner livery proud as he crosses the line. Does not improve this time around, but he will creep one more lap into the mix. As meanwhile we do see here Underkoffler heading on through the S's out towards turn number 5, currently the sliced man on the circuit, albeit to be fair he may not be used to run in the Toyota GR86 Cup machine, and therefore that's why we welcome drivers of all experience levels. But we see there Dylan Verlinger going on around and immediately being towed to the pits in the rear of the camera out to turn number 5. But as we do see Nick Bader coming on through turn 5, such a tricky corner of course because of the fact you're essentially running the car with a huge momentum shift as you hit the apex of the corner. But as we see him head down towards turn number 6 now, onto the brakes again here, and will Bader, another one to watch out for in the race. Not normally a fast qualifying driver, but in the races he really does come alive as time goes on. That tyre wear starts to kick in. It's almost as if he's a bit of a tyre whisperer, as we're to understand. He just finds a way to keep the car cool and consistent. But as he makes his way up towards turn at number 10, well, meanwhile we have got Bernardi into the pit lane. He feels as though he's done enough. Meanwhile, current second place driver in the championship of the AM class, Mark Sendel, heads through the final corner. What's it going to be as he heads to the timeline? He moves up to P3. It's a 37.852. Dorsey will not feel threatened by that. Hooks will drop to P4. Meanwhile, we've got a couple more drivers making their way on around, including Dorsey himself. Can he close the gap here? Well, it's not been an improving lap from what we can see, or has it? He does not improve. He does go purple in the final subsector, but it's not enough to move him closer to Bernardi. So now it's all going to be on tender hooks for him in terms of how many drives are between him and his prey. But meanwhile, Blondell heading on down for 11 and into 12 as he comes on through in the number 204 and heading up towards the line, currently P10. Can he find a bit more time out there? No, he cannot. What about some other drivers? We've got Billman DaCosta there at the head of the pair crossing the line. He does not improve. Neither does behind Glenn Bratton. And then we do have Ian Hennery, the last AM to cross the line, and he will stay P5. As meanwhile, we now do have the Pros and the Primes coming on through. That was Jason Landry starting to make his way onto the first Prime flying lap. He is at the head of the pack. Meanwhile, we look here to Tanner Dibble in the DNA Motorsport machine. I believe behind him that is Butler as they head up towards that turn at number 12 and coming on down through the right-hander. And Jordan Butler here trying to take a bit of a tow all the way through on the lap. And of course, a bit of teamwork here. It is permitted between our drivers within the same team to try and work together. And one thing we perhaps haven't talked about a little bit is what do you need here at Road Atlanta to have a good lap? Well, slipstream is going to benefit you massively in the second half of the lap, particularly on the exit of 7 all the way down the back straight into the chicane at 10A, 10B. On the earlier portion of the lap, it's all about confidence. You need to know this circuit very well, and you need to know just how much speed you can carry from corner to corner and off apex and on to the next one. Get it right and you'll find your lap time will be right up there. Get it wrong, however, and you'll find yourself off onto the grass, or you're just not able to use the full width of the circuit. This really is a track where you have to use all the circuit width. There's no other way to get an optimum lap in. It sounds obvious, it sounds like every track you need to do that, but this one, it's all about that flow, using all the width to carry as many miles an hour to the next corner, and therefore not losing speed. And in these Toyota GR86 Cup cars, when they're only running 230 brake horsepower, and of course with the boxer engine, it does mean that if you lose 1 mile an hour around here, it is going to be compounded when you're driving uphill in particular, such as turn 1, where you need every little bit of speed and all of the revs in order to carry the speed to the next corner, and that's what it takes. But meanwhile, as we see a Butler here changing places with Dibble, and I think they're doing the swap given the fact that Butler has been on the toe for a long time. Well, we have got our initial lap starting to come in from our pros and primes who cross the timeline, and John Lauzon currently the fastest of everybody at 36.858 as he goes for original pole overall and in the pro class. Edwin Offred goes P2 then, that's Brian Pole so far at 36.971, and only a tenth off of Lauzon. Could we potentially see here our pro-am of an Offred really steal the show in class and perhaps even overall? But as we do see Butler cross the line, he goes P10 down to 37.616 with his teammate there of Dibble behind, and Dibble in the end only good enough for P21 that time round, but now being given the time return, it's a you scratch my back and I'll scratch your back scenario for the two teammates. But meanwhile, we do look to what is James Carr as he heads out to turn it number 5 and down towards 6 he goes. And James Carr has been a little bit of one of those drivers who you can never count out in terms of qualifying or in the races. The shining yellow privateer machine really making himself felt at Road America last time out, right up there. And as he comes on through turn at number 7, well, keeping it calm, keeping it collected at the moment, but only P15 overall, or P8 in the pro class, and he's going to have his work cut out from here if that's going to be the highest he achieves, for the simple reason you see how high Bernardi's lap currently stands, P4, the AM pole sitter. And well, for the uninitiated, how can you tell who's a pro, who's a prime, and who's an AM in the timing tower, and indeed on the driver data? Well, you can tell by the pros being indicated by a blue stripe on the timing tower. Meanwhile, the primes are indicated by the light green stripe, and the AMs are identified by the orange stripe by comparison. So do keep that in mind, and you can see the intermingling of the classes. But meanwhile, Francois Schink coming on down here. He's gone the fastest of everybody in subsector 2. He's on a personal best in subsectors 1 and 3. He heads the timeline here, and it's provisional pole for Francois Schink. It's a good lap. It's a 36.688. The times continue to trickle down. Jason Landry moves up to P3 on a 36.963. But I wonder here whether Landry will be able to overcome almost 3/10 of a second. And Landry, of course, has been the man to beat in every qualifying session this season so far. He has been up there and he's stapled himself to the very top of the field, but right now it is not looking to be going Landry's way with only what is 2.5 minutes left to go. And well, as we see our drivers heading on down, we see Aaron Lyon in particular heading on through the final corner, and we jump on board with him as he makes his way onto another flying lap. Staying across the timeline, and currently P15, the pro, driving a 37.906 that last time around versus a 37.6 his best. And as he heads into turn 1, we have an early entry line there. It's going to cause a bit of understeer off the corner exit as he heads up the hill. You can see how he's lost the speed because of that compromised line as he heads into 2 and 3. But coming on down here now, try and bring the car back together. A nice transition there through 3 into 4. Third gear heading on down up to 4th gear, nice and early as he turns into the first part of the S's, and as he comes through right, left, and right, and braking into left-hander turn number 5, really attacking the corner. But notice he steered clear of the apex curve in terms of mounting it with the left-hand side tyres to avoid the car being ejected out further wide. And as he heads down towards turn number 6 here, he's got a nice recovery on the lap so far, braking his way into turn number 6, down to 3rd gear, hits the apex nicely into turn number 7, 3rd gear through to the apex, down to 2nd, and as he powers his way out, now it's all about the exit here. And well, it was a good return to throttle, but how much time will he gain? As meanwhile, Jason Landry crosses the timeline off screen and goes P2 for 36.740, half a tenth of Francois Schink's provisional pole lap. And we can see that in the prime class, it's Alberto Alvarez who moves to P3 overall, but that's prime pole by only 300ths over Logan McKinsey, where Edwin Offred dropping down to P7, but it is very close right now for both the pro pole and the prime pole. But we continue to run this lap down line as he breaks his way into the chicane, coming through 10A and 10B. A little bit of a drift there coming out of 10A. Unites the car with to understeer, and he's had to reset it. In fact, as he comes over the hill through 11, turning a little bit too early and getting caught out as he comes down through the right-hander of turn number 12. It hasn't been the smoothest lap from Aaron Lahr, but as he crosses there, it does not improve. A similar lap to the previous one, but still, he will have one more lap to try and improve as he heads into turn number 1 for the final time in the qualifying session. But meanwhile, we do look from him to our new prime drivers, and we need to introduce them. And that is firstly Jay DeRees as he makes his way in towards turn number 6, heading on down here. The privateer in a very striking livery, the orange machine, as he heads on down. We also do need to welcome in John Kroom. In fact, we did not get a chance to welcome him. We do apologise for that, as we could not quite catch him on circuit. But there is Kroom in the Rockefeller Racing pink machine, and we also do have the newcomer. In fact, those are the two prime newcomers, and good luck to them on their debut. And of course, Kroom, you'll remember from some of our previous Middle of the Pack Racing League series, including what was the GT3s, if my memory serves me correctly. But as we do see here, our drivers of Dibble and Butler working together once again, with Jay DeRees, meanwhile, as a newcomer, very new to the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and therefore really tried to assert himself early on. But as we continue to see the DNA Motorsport drivers heading on down to the braking zone here, with too wide as they come, but you can see that Dibble has released Butler in the end. Butler trying to gain a bit more time. Meanwhile, at the top of the standings, it's still Francois Schenk, who is up there by half a tenth. And meanwhile, Alberto Alvarez stays P4 in the prime class. That's prime pole. Currently, Logan McKenzie cannot improve. He'll be starting P6 at best. Edwin Offren, meanwhile, P8 at best. As we see Butler cross the line, he improves to P13 or 37.359. Jermaine Warren, meanwhile, crosses the line P23, as he's not too happy with this qualifying lap by looks of things. And it's not quite worked out for the prime driver. And have we got anybody else coming across the line? Aaron Law, he does not improve again, and it does look as though the best he'll achieve is P17, the pro driver, and Donald Sepek, the final driver to come on down here as he makes his way through the right-hander of turn number 12, and he does improve to P23. He dethrones Warren from the position of 38.213, but that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. It's Francois Schenk on overall and pro pole, it's Alberto Alvarez on prime pole and P4, and Samuel Bernardi has taken P9 overall. That is pole there by a margin of what is 10 places over his next closest peer. But it's time for us to transition to the grid for today's one and only sprint race. And as we do wait for that transition, a little bit of overtime here as our drivers have been given the opportunity to settle on down. Of course, we're keeping an avid eye on our 5 newcomers in terms of how they get on today, and they'll be looking to try and establish themselves within their respective classes. In terms of the newcomers that have really stood out, John Kroom at P16 overall, and what is their P7 in the prime class, putting in a good qualifying session, and Hooks as well, taking P4 in the AM class. But as our drivers head to the grid, this is how they line up for our one and only race. Jason Landry takes pole position in the end as the results are updated there. So Landry does continue his pole position streak for Sunday GT Turtles, with Francois Schenk's final lap being discounted, and James Carr joins him on the front row. Row 2 goes to the pair of Francois Schenk and Alberto Alvarez. Alvarez taking pro and pole for Pan Am Racing, with Tanner Dibble for DNA Motorsport starting off our third row, being joined up by Logan McKenzie. On row number 4, it's John Lauzon and Edwin Offre, with Samuel Bernardi on pole sitter Ian P9, joined by Carl Ranieri on the 5th row, and then P11, P12, James Logs and Ilya Speaker, they make up row number 6. Row number 7 goes to the pair of Jordan Butler and Samuel Graham, with Adam Ballard and John Kroom line up on the 8th row, and it's Aaron Lyon and Avon Dorsey on row number 9, with the top 20 being completed by Jerome Bajulaz and Jay DeRees. We then have on row number 11 Mark Senegal, the Sunday GT Turtles drive, being joined by the privateer of Hooks, Jordan Hooks that is. Now on row 12 we have Ian Henneberry and Donald Sepek. On row number 13, it's the pair of Jermaine Warren for Middle of the Pack Racing Civ, joined by Dan Victor, and then we have Billman DaCosta and Nick Bader on row number 14, with Dylan Villinger and Gus Blondell on row number 15, Glenn Bratton and Matt Underkoffler on row number 16, and then on the final row of the grid, by his lonesome P33 as well start for Rockefeller Racing Pink, it's Milan Harris in the prime machine. But we only got 30 seconds or so before we get ready to go with the lights, and we can see here the majority of our drivers on the grid. We're just waiting for James Carr, and also I believe Samuel Cran, but Cran has just taken to the grid, so it's just that empty spot on the front row alongside Landry of Carr that we're waiting to be filled, and then we'll be awaiting the lights. The grid is set, we await the lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the Southern State Cup in round 9 of 12 in the Cruising USA Championship. And Jason Landry gets a good start of the line as they make the way out towards the right-hander at turn 1. Notice how Francois Schink tucking into the inside here, trying to get the inside line on Carr as they come through. Schink moves through, but as they power their way up towards the right-hand apex now, you can see Tanner Dibble as well going on the charge versus Logan McKenzie. McKenzie past Alvarez here as they head up, and already McKenzie trying to make more headway as they head over the rise and now into the drop of the S's. But coming on down here, Orvar drives in quick succession. Ranieri battling side by side with Bernardi, and Bernardi trying to make a bit of ground but has lost 2 places off the start. But everybody has survived the opening set of corners by the looks of things. Albeit I think we had a little bit of a moment for Jay DeReese further down the order as Jordan Hooks here continues to gain a little bit of ground as well, gaining or not losing any places either, but keeping it smart and sensible. John Kroon meanwhile has lost 10 places off the start line for Rockefeller Racing. He's down to P26, and we can see a bit further back than Milan Harris as well, starting to make some early ground. But meanwhile, as we look from them up to the front of the field, coming through turn 6 into 7, you can see Jason Landry holding the lead as they make their way onto the back straight for the first time of asking, and really making that early start count. But Alberto Alvarez, by comparison, having lost 2 places and losing 1 place to Logan McKenzie, the most critical one in the Prime class. We're side by side here with Tanner Dibble, but Dibble is given the gift of the toe versus Logan McKenzie in front of him, and that's going to mean that Alvarez now will be compromised in the run down to the chicane. They're powering their way on down here, both flat out as they go. Alvarez now trying to gain a little bit of time with McKenzie, and McKenzie sharing the slipstream around in order to get Alvarez and Dibble to battle hard. As they come through 10A to 10B, Alvarez has to back out. Meanwhile, Aaron Lahr, by comparison here, just making the move round the outside of Samuel Cran. In fact, that's not Samuel Cran, that's Avon Dorsey's made the move on as they make the way over the crest and down towards turn number 12. But after 1 lap here, Aaron Lahr now trying to make the move on Samuel Cran as they make their way through the right-hander, and will come in on towards the end of the lap. Not quite able to make it here as we see a run wide from Avon Dorsey. Just behind that releases Ian Hennebury up in position into P2 in the AM class. They head into the opening corner once again, and the Bear Pope Zero driver here, I think, in control of the position and making it count early on with the early mistake of his rival. But as they power the way through, meanwhile Jordan Hooks on the inside into turn number 3 versus where's there Donald Seepeck. He gets it done, and Seepeck I think with a little bit of a slow exit out of turn number 1, having to give way as they make the way through the S's once again today. But after 1 lap, as we look here to your race leader, it's Jason Landry who leads ahead of James Carr by half a second, followed up by Francois Schink. Then we have Logan McKenzie P4, your prime leader, ahead of Tanner Dibble, Alberto Alvarez in P6, followed up by John Lauzon, Edwin Offret, James Logston, Carl Ranieri, who completes the run to P10, and then best the rest behind Ijo Am, leader of Samuel Bernardi, as he looks to hold off Ilias Speaker behind. But Bernardi right now in a world of his own within his class. If he can finish this high compared to his peers, he'll gain more points, but he won't be finishing that high. Speaker comes on through on the inside, and Bernardi here I think trying to be smart as well, focusing on the battle which he can manage, which is in the AM class rather than battling with his other class peers. But do remember, Orvar tries to receive overall points, not class points, and that means they are encouraged to battle in amongst the classes. But meanwhile, we're hearing that Mark Senegal's in the pit lane due to damage picked up on the opening lap on the car, and as they come down towards turn at number 10, we can see Jerome Pajulas and John Butler battling hard here with Butler on the inside. Pajulas around the outside with Big Buzz Energy, and can he make it count? Bernardi goes deep there. Bernardi really just trying to steer clear of all the carnage. We've got a car around. That's Tanner Dibble. He's dropped all the way outside the top 5, let alone the top 10. And as they make the way over the ridge and down towards turn number 12 here, we can see Aaron Lahr now trying to pounce in return versus where's Alan Ballard there, but Ballard shuts the door just in time, and Aaron Lahr backs out as they make the way up towards turn 1 once again. Further back we can see Avon Dorsey and Ian Hennebury as well, with Dorsey there coming off the inside. He's made the counter attack, he's made it count into turn 1, but now Hennebury's going to try and get the cutback run up the hill in towards 2, 3. But you can see how the line's closing off there, and Dorsey just carrying all the momentum over the rise, as we also see that undercofflers into the pit lane due to a suspected damage to the car as well. It's unfortunate for the 2 AM drives, but with Undercoffler and Senegal, it's not been the way they wanted to start. But meanwhile, Hennebury on the inside versus Dorsey coming on down, and Dorsey I think didn't expect Hennebury to go all in there, but in the end he is past. And right now as we jump on board with the Rockefeller Racing white driver, this rivalry between himself and Hennebury is definitely growing, as also we have Jordan Hooks just behind, and Hooks is staying close, only 3 tenths off. You can't see him at the moment, just as he's right behind the driver we're riding on board with. And I think right now Avon Dorsey finding himself a little bit on the back foot, and perhaps in a bit of an unexpected battle. But as they come into turn number 7, you can see how Lahr in front really right now causing the field to Constantina as they make the way out to turn 7, and Dorsey looking for the squeeze here as as they all head on down. It's a slow run for Samuel Cran. Lars made to take a base to action. Henneberry comes on through, and Dorsey now really trying to get tucked into this as they make the way all the way down the backstretch, powering the way down towards turn number 10 here, and Dorsey trying to get a move on with Hooks right behind, and Hooks at this point maybe trying to look to make it 3 wide as they come down towards the braking zone. Into the depression they go, and who's going to try and look on the move? Well, Lars looks up the inside of Henneberry. Meanwhile, Dorsey tries to go on through. Henneberry gives the space to 1, but in the end, Dorsey has to back out as Lars tries to go around the outside. But meanwhile, look at Hooks. Hooks shows no fear as he goes up the inside into 10B as they come over the rise and down towards turn 12. And now it's going to be Hooks on the inside versus Dorsey on the outside. They go 2 abreast into the corner. They emerge 2 wide as well. But who's going to have to run into the next corner as they head into turn 1 with still Hooks on the left of your picture, Dorsey on the right of your picture. This is the battle for P3 in the AM class. It could not be closer, and Hooks gets the move done just for the time being as they make the way up with Donald Seebeck and Milan Harris behind. But as they head up towards turns 2 and 3, meanwhile we must look back up to the front of the field. And here's Jason Landry, who after open up a half a second gap, and now is James Carr closing up behind. And I don't think Jason Landry is going to be given all the breathing room he so thinks he's offered himself as they make their way into turn 6 for the simple reason he may have got a good start, but now James Carr is starting to get himself right onto the back of his championship rival as they make their way through turn number 7 once again. You can see Franzon Schink tucked in behind, and Logan McKinsey and Alberto Alvarez. These two are inseparable in the Pro-Am class. You can see him P4, P5, and neither one of them right now relenting in their pursuit of a top 3 overall finish, but also the win of the class. But as they head down here towards turn number 10, I think it's going to be the status quo for the meanwhile. Meanwhile, as we say hello to Samuel Bernardi in the YouTube chat, who says, woo, let's go. We also see him here on circuit trying to battle his way past Jerome Bajulas to look to gain P12 overall. But meanwhile, just up the road from Jordan Butler versus Ilya Speaker. Butler around the inside, and we see a flash of lights there from Speaker, I think trying to send the signal through, which is I'm letting you go. Meanwhile, Bernardi outside to inside cutback here versus Bajulas, who carries all the speed and then some through the chicane and gets it done. A lovely defense there from Bajulas as they make the way over the crest and down to the end of the lap. But meanwhile, we look back up to our leaders here and right on board the gearbox of Jason Andrew from Sunday GT Turtles as the privateer of James Carr now getting incredibly close. The grill is looking ever more menacing on the privateer yellow car, and as he makes his way into turn 3, Landry right now not wanting to put a single foot wrong. This is the pressure you do not want at Road Atlanta, because at the end of the day, yes, it may only be 1 wide through the first 5 corners, but the problem will be that when you've got a driver behind you this close, at any moment they could look to pounce, and it starts to prey on your mind. You start to make these little tiny mistakes that add up over time. Landry right now looking bulletproof in his defence, to be fair to him, but for how long will this pressure be comfortable as they make their way into turn 6 and 7 through the double right they go. Landry holding firm here, 2.5 tenths up the road as James Carr gets so close there as they make their way out of the right, and you can tell he's pushing this right now in order to try and get Landry to make a mistake. But what's the one thing with Jason Landry you count on? He doesn't make mistakes. They make their way down the back straight here, and James Carr is the closest he's ever going to be in this race early on to look for a move. 1/10 is the gap. They've still got half the stretch to go as they get ready to pass the kink of 9, and as Landry holds the outside here, I think James Carr trying to push Landry along a little bit and say to him, look, just move along a little bit, get the pace going, let's break away from Schink and McKinsey behind. But the problem is here, I think Landry wants to see his rival push back towards Schink, so that way it ends up being a battle for P2, not a battle for P1. But time will tell whether Schink decides to work together with Carr in order to make it a three-way fight for the win. And also keep in mind that we've never seen a Pro-Am driver take the overall win. Logan McKinsey and Alberto Alvarez have both come extremely close over the last couple rounds, and they're both itching for that opportunity. As meanwhile, John Lauzon battling here with Edwin Onofre, and Onofre, we qualified quite poorly compared to where his lap indicated he may be due to an invalidated lap. But look at the Pro-Am driver at the head of this group. But meanwhile, cut that fault, it's 3-1 coming out of turn 1. But meanwhile, James Logsdon backs off there. John Lauzon on the outside of Carl Ranieri. Ranieri hasn't started towards the bottom of the top 10. Lauzon there squeezing its way on the inside of 4. Venus, I think, has been pushed a little bit off, and in the end pushing back in return. But as they make the way down through the S's here, it's 2 wide all the way through. You don't see this in any class of racing, but it's contact with Ranieri. Ranieri goes round as he tries to turn in and finds the front bump of Lauzon. Lauzon curries on here, and I think you argue it's a racing instant, and where it's going to be a tough one for our stewards to decide on. But meanwhile, we can see that James Logsdon behind takes a look, but he can't quite find it in him. But Ranieri has been turned, and with that he's dropped outside the top 10 and down to P17. But one driver's lost is another gain, and we can see the driver's gained a little bit out of this. Adam Ballard right now moves into P12 overall, still stays in P5 in the prime class as he chases after Jordan Butler, but his main target, of course, will be Ilya Speaker, who's in P4 in the class in front. Meanwhile, what on earth has happened to John Lauzon? He's just pointing the wrong way. In fact, he's pointing the right way, but the car was stuck there on the exit of turn number 7. I wonder if the damage he picked up from the contact with Ranieri has ended his race. He has been towed to the pit lane, but meanwhile, we look from the midfield up to the very front of the field, and James Carr is going on the offensive versus Landry once again as they come to the end of the first third of this race. Now down for 11 and into 12 they go. You can see that Francois Schinck is placing his best to be behind Landry through turn number 12, but as they head up towards 1, Logan McKenzie in this fight as well. It's a 5-way fight into turn 1. It's going to be 3 abreast towards the rear, and as Landry here literally been harassed. Meanwhile, look at Alvarez. Alvarez comes in like a missile on the inside as they head up the hill. They're all still together here. This is fantastic stuff, and Alberto Alvarez tries to make it P2 as a minimum, but as they come over the hill and down through 3 into 4, Alvarez has to back out and not shut the door as they make the way in towards turn number 5, because James Carr there finds his way on back. Beautiful driving between the quintuplet of drivers. They make the way up towards turn at number 5. I think quintuplet means 5. If not, we're calling it as 5 right now as they make the way up towards turn number 6. And the charge is on here as they come on down towards the next braking zone. But meanwhile, as they return to line astern for a brief moment, we must look back to Jordan Hooks, who's taken to the runoff road there, or the escape road as we like to call it. I think a mistake was turn at number 3. Catch him out. He drops down to P4 in the AM class, down to P21 overall. He's got John Kroom behind him. John Kroom still trying to recover after a difficult start to this race. The Rockefeller Racing pink driver. Unfortunately, we have had a retirement for Matt Underkoffler early on in this race, but otherwise our other 4 newcomers are all still standing and pushing on. And you see Kroom here enjoying a little bit of battle versus Hooks. They make the way through turn 6 into 7. Meanwhile, just behind Jay De Vries, as we see here, the wonderful orange machine of the 121 driver, where he's moved up to P23, and as he comes out of turn at number 7, he's continued to make a little bit of recovery ground in the prime class. But meanwhile, heading on down the back stretch here, we must look back up to James Carr, who's fallen off of Landry. He's still battling here with McKenzie and Alvarez, and McKenzie on the inside as they come down through 12. Through the right hander they go up towards turn number 1, and you see Schinck just behind as Alvarez switches it back to the inside here, and McKenzie's now got to make a call. Does he try to defend the position, or does he let it go? He's going to let it go here. I think he's conscious of the fact that James Carr, in having to defend so much, is losing the rear of Jason Landry, and Landry now has a 7/10 of a second gap as a result. As they make the way down through 3 and 4, and into the S's once again. And Francois Schinck, meanwhile, I think will be asking, how on earth did I end up in P5? At one moment I was P3. Well, as they head up towards turn number 5, I think he'll look to bounce back sooner rather than later, and this battle right now continuing on. Meanwhile, behind in the battle of the 3 pros, we should say, for P4 in the pro class and what is P7 overall, this is Jerome Bajulas, Jordan Butler and James Logston all in a long line, and behind them they also have Adam J. Ballard in the prime class looking to push on, with Samuel Bernardi watching on in the AM leading P11. But the key point here is we have the top 3 of the pro class battling hard at the top of the field, and then we've got the next 3 in the pro class also putting on a battle as they make their way through turn at number 7. It's wonderful to see. Of course, the problem is we can't have both battles on screen at the same time. But meanwhile, as they make the way down, no change at the moment. Francois Schinck has dropped into P4 ahead of James Carr. I think James Carr had an off at turn number 7 from what I'm hearing in my earpiece, and as a result, Francois Schinck now gaining 1 place, but he's still got more to go as they head down towards turn number 10 once again. But heading on through, meanwhile, we do look here to Jordan Butler chasing after Jerome Bajulas, and notice James Logston really playing a patient game here of not looking to make the move early. I think he's expecting there's going to be a little bit of drama between Butler and Bajulas in terms of them battling, taking time out one of, and he might be able to saunter on through with the momentum he gains by not being involved. But meanwhile, Logston into the pit lane. Is there something wrong with the car, or is there a drive-through penalty? Well, either way, this is unexpected, and the Bearpoint Racing driver is going to fall out of the hunt very quickly. We'll try and give you an update on what exactly the reason for that is very shortly. But meanwhile, we look to Dan Victrick here running a new livery for today as he comes down for 11 into 12. He's chased after John Kroom, but he's in P3 in the AM class, P20 overall, and he is ahead of Jordan Hooks. And we can confirm that the pit entry for James Logston was a drive-through penalty for hitting the instant count limit, and that is unfortunate for Logston. It's going to force him all the way down to a place outside of the top 10 for definite. In fact, in the end, he has had He's in his pit box at the moment, so it's damage on the car. It is not a pit lane. Well, it's not a stop and go penalty. Goodness me, a drive-through penalty. That's what we're looking for in terms of the nomenclature. But as we see Dan Vitchuk here chased after Chrome, Logston's had to come on in, and meanwhile we do look from the charging Vitchuk all the way back up to the top of the field. But as we see Jason Landry here for Sunday GT Turtles continue to hold on to the lead. He's now got the two primes baying for that lead. They will both want it in earnest as we say hello to Eric Logston there in the YouTube chat, cheering on James Logston, and unfortunate for the fellow family member in terms of having to come into the pits. But we'll try and get clarity on that. But I think he has had to retire the car. I think they've identified a technical issue on the car. Then on McKenzie up the inside of Alvarez. They briefly go 3 wide through the chicane. They turn it to 2 wide. Alvarez defends hard here, and as they make the way over the crest of 11 and down towards 12, will come in through the right hand here. Alvarez is not going to give up. He wants this track position. And look at Francois Schink now looking at the back of this battle and thinking, okay, fellas, I want to be part of this. He's going to go to the inside. Alvarez in the middle, McKinsey on the right, and into turn 1 they go, and it's going to be Alvarez who parts the seas and holds the position. But will he hold on to it all the way up the hill here as he's had to go a little bit deep? And James Carr now looks to try and cut it to the inside into turn 3. Under braking they go, but Carr backs out. Alvarez moves into P2. Mike Moses, he parted the waves, and as he makes his way down through the S's now, he's been able to seal the deal for a brief moment, but it's a 1 second gap to Jason Landry, and with the toe of these cars extend out to 1.5 seconds, he can't afford to let the gap get much further, as otherwise Landry will start to break away. But we're only halfway through the race. Would you believe it? This may be a sprint, but right now this is going to feel like an endurance test for all of our drivers. And as the time trickles on, James Carr looking around the outside here, Shinky the battle for P2 and the Pro Class P3 overall. And as they come into turn number 7, no change at the moment. He just continues to wait, watch and listen as they head up towards the back straight and onwards. But as they power their way on down, meanwhile a little bit further back, we can tell you that Dylan Valinga now started to be hunted in the battle for P5 in the AM class, P22 overall by Gus Blondell, and will Valinga make it a good recovery after a relatively calm start. He didn't lose any places, didn't gain any. He's gained 4 places in the AM class, he's gained 7 overall, and right now the 247 driver under pressure on Blondell, and we do know that Blondell a very strong attacking driver, and I think Valinga is going to have the test of his defensive work very early on in his participation in this series. But Blondell waiting at the moment, I think starting to do a little bit of threat assessment analysis here to understand where he can go on the pounds. But as they make the way, powering their way all the way up towards 10 now, then powering on down, we ride on board the gearbox here of Valinga, and when you see a little bit of a bob there coming through the kink of 8 and heading up towards 9. But in the car in the middle of the road, he's going to make Blondell have to pick a side, and in the end Blondell looks to cut to the inside here as they head on down into the braking zone. Side by side they come through the kink of 9 into the drop now, and Blondell's going to go all in on the brakes here. Valinga in return will look to try and go outside to inside under braking, and Blondell comes in very hot, and Valinga in the end just not able to outbrake his rival and playing it safe, and Gus Blondell moves up to P5 in the AM class and Wood is P22. But as he heads on down towards turn number 12, meanwhile we do cut back to the battle for the lead. Jason Landry still holding on to that lead at the moment. They started to bump into a little bit of traffic in front in terms of drivers who are becoming a lap down as of the near future, and Landry here still 4.5 tenths clear of Alvarez, but Alvarez right now with a golden opportunity not just to beat Logan McKenzie but to potentially be our first prime to take an overall win in this series. He makes his way down the back straight here, but Landry will not make this easy. We know that Jason Landry will want every win to be able to steal that Pro Championship early, given the advantage he currently has. I mean, he's got plenty of points, but of course you always want more points when you're leading. And as he heads down towards 10 now, well, you can imagine that James Carr watching on behind, we're thinking or hoping that McKenzie will just play the patience game here, and they become the enemy of my enemy is my friend, as the saying goes, where Carr and McKenzie will work together for a brief moment to hunt down the common goal of which is closed up to Alvarez and Landry. But time will tell as they make their way over the ridge here. The top 5 continue to soldier on, and Francois Schink at the back of this group, he is not being shaken off as they head in towards turn 12. Kroom there just letting everybody go. In fact, that was not Kroom, that was Jordan Hooks, we should say, letting everybody go, and Edwin Offred as well. Look at an Offred behind, and I wonder if we're actually looking at perhaps a bit of a threat for the battle for the top 5 and make it a battle for the top 6, with the middle of the pack Jedi driver not on the pace of the top 6, but when they fight he definitely has closed up. The gap previously 5 seconds, but he's finding a way to close up here, and I would suspect he could also have an outside chance to potentially be in the hunt for the prime win as he heads on down the hill. But coming down meanwhile, Jordan Butler in contact there with what is, I do believe, John Bajulas. They've come together as we've caught them on camera. We're not quite sure who started what there, but the key thing is that Bajulas being turned around in the run into the S's. He's going to drop a long way down the field. Jordan Butler making it out relatively unscathed, albeit I think a bit of a knot there to his confidence, and now it's going to be a bit of a cloud hanging over his race until the very end. And meanwhile, Samuel Bernardi moves up to P8 in all of this, with the 2-1-2 drive, steer clear of all the danger early on after qualifying inside the top 10, and by natural attrition he's moved back inside the top 10. Meanwhile, we are hearing that further down the order, Nick Bader's been off circuit, and he's continued to be off circuit at the moment. He's been involved in some sort of incident at turns 2 and 3, so he's dropped a long way down and promoted a number of his peers up the order. But meanwhile, we do look from what is Samuel Bernardi to Tanner Dibble, and Dibble chasing after Carl Ranieri, and of course these two at one point battling inside the top 10, both having a bit of coming together with other drives or mistakes on circuit, and Dibble looking to cover through here for P7 in the pro class as they head on down, but side by side they go, and Ranieri here just playing it smart on the inside. I think respect to the fact that Dibble will eventually have a 1 to 2 mile an hour overspeed here, but with Ranieri having that inside line, he can contest that under braking. They both hit the anchors in 10. Ranieri's going to go for it here. Dibble tries to open up the corner as much as he can to take the outside to inside line. He's still there on the inside in 10B, but Ranieri here gets the better traction off the corner exit as they head over the ridge and down towards turn number 12. It's side by side coming all the way through, but I think Ranieri's just going to clear his rival. Is he? No, he can't turn in. Or does he take the nose off of the DNA Motorsports machine? And the Pepto-Bismol car is under attack here into turn 1 on the right of your picture, but Dibble backs out in the end, waiting for the next opportunity. But Dibble definitely burying his fangs. They head up the hill, 10 minutes still to go, and still plenty of battles ongoing, including what is the battle for the prime lead here as we jump on board for a brief moment with Logan McKenzie, the tied privateer, heading up towards turn 6 with Alvarez in front. And will McKenzie will know he doesn't need to beat Alvarez today to still be in control of the championship, but still beating Alvarez will go a long way in pushing Alvarez to have to step up even further in the final 3 rounds. And time is running out as they make the way down the back straight again. We've got less than 10 minutes, and every second matters to Alvarez. He holds the position, he holds it in his hands, but will he be still holding it come the very end? I get the feeling it's going to exchange place at least one more time here today, for the simple reason that McKenzie's very close. He's got the toe, Landry and Carr in front, also exchanging places up the roads. We've got 2 battles at the same time in a single picture as they head down. Alvarez defends hard on the inside. McKenzie looks to outbrake his rival. They're neck and neck under brake, and they both go all in. McKenzie turns in, he looks at the cutback, he can't quite get it. Meanwhile, James Carr successfully defends versus Jason Landry up the road, and the pro leader of James Carr takes over as they make their way down and through turn number 12 here. Francois Schick is only 3 tenths behind the driver we're running on board with, but as they make their way to the timeline here, we look to them heading into turn 1. James Carr still defending 2 wide under braking here, and Alvarez also trying to get into the mix. McKenzie lets it go for a brief while, I think trying to expect that Alvarez will get caught up in this 2-way battle for the lead. As they head up the hill here, Jason Landry now falling back 1 place, and James Carr absolutely relentless here in his pursuit of the lead in the number 77 car. There's no question about it. In fact, the 17, as my eyes do deceive me, and as he heads on down the hill here, for the privateer, can he make this stick to the very end? I wonder whether Francois Schick may now start to look at this and think about getting in. Logan McKenzie, meanwhile, still glued to the back of Alvarez. He just cannot be shaken off. It's like a bad rash, and as they make their way up towards turn 6, he takes a peek, he can't quite find it. I think signaling to Alvarez, when am I going to go for it? When am I going to try? And look at this man behind in the 199. We said only moments ago, watch out, he will close up, and here he is. He's now on the back of this battle. He is getting the toe. It's Edwin Offray here, who could be an outsider to creep into the lead of the prime class come the end if he plays his cards right. But as they make their way down the back straight, meanwhile, we do look to Adam Ballard, who's running P4 in the prime class. He's got Milan Harris running in the battle for P8 to P9 overall. They have got in front of them Jordan Butler and Samuel Bernardi. He is just behind the pair, but meanwhile things are calming down outside the top 10. We do still have the battle between Dibble and Ranieri as they head up towards turn number 10 as well. But meanwhile, we must cut away from them, ladies and gentlemen, again, because James Carr holding on to position this time as they make the way out to the chicane, and Landry really trying to pick a place to come on through. But here's the thing about James D. Carr, he just simply digs in when he holds a position. If he wants that place, you are going to have to pry it away from his hands, for the simple reason he just knows how to defend. As they make the way to turn 1, Alvarez there in the middle of the road, he gets boxed in slightly. McKenzie looks to make it 3 wide. Landry backs out. Meanwhile, Francois Schick comes on through. He finds a way on the inside, and Landry is robbed. He's forced down the order. Alvarez as well, and Francois Schick makes it 2 for 2. But meanwhile, Jason Landry in side-to-side contact there with Alberto Alvarez drops all all the way from P2 to P5. He's now got Edwin Offred behind him. My goodness, it could not be closer. You can cut the tension with a knife as they make the way through turn number 5. This top 6 continues to charge. It's incredible racing, and you can see that you guys and girls are loving it in the YouTube and also the Twitch chat. But as they make their way down towards turn number 6 here, I wonder how long can they keep this up. We hope to the very end, of course, but right now everybody really trying to tease out the places, and James Carr, credit to him, he's found a way to buy himself a whole second's worth of space on the road. As he powers his way down the back straight here, of course, the thing will be, on this long stretch, the toe will really start to condense that gap back down. It was a second as he exited turn 7, halfway down, it's already dropped to 7 tenths. It's going to drop even further as he heads into the braking zone for the chicane. But meanwhile, Jason Landry staying close here, and Landry now really in the unenviable position of having to try and force his way back up the order here, and he has got Alvarez in front, and Alvarez will not want to let this go. He will want to hold track position because he'll want to hunt after what is Logan McKenzie, of course. And if Landry was behind Shink, you would imagine it might be a little bit easier for the pro pair because they both want to go hunting past the primes after the pro leader. But right now, with the classes so closely entwined, this does mean it is going to be a Goliath battle each time. And Andrew looks to move here into turn 1. He tries to do what's done to him, only a lap to go. It's too wide on corner exit. Alvarez gives him the space as he builds the outside to inside. There's Alvarez here, but as they make their way over the crest into the braking zone, it's too wide on the apex of 3. Alvarez is still there. Landry backs out. Alberto Alvarez continues to prove a thorn in the side. Meanwhile, as we can see here a little bit further back, Aaron Lahr versus Samuel Cran, and Cran now trying to make some late gains, we should say, in this race after quite a quiet early race for him as the Bear Poke driver falls behind Aaron Lahr once again. Meanwhile, Ranieri versus Dibble. Dibble has found his way through for P13, overall P6 of the pro class, but I think this battle is not quite done yet as they make their way down the hill and in towards turn at number 15, and Ranieri is right there. You can see he's all over the back of his rival, but just not able to push through as they head up towards turn number 6. But as they charge on down, we can see John Kroom and Avon Dorsey just behind, closing little by little as they get ready to the next braking zone. And now 5 minutes remain. This is where it really has come down to crunch time as they head up towards turn at number 7. And meanwhile, we look back to Alberto Alvarez, who still has Jason Landry all over the back in the battle for P4 overall. And as they head down the hill, Landry knows he's got to make this move count now. He's not got much time left as they head side by side on the brake, and Alvarez again squeezes him to the apex. He's being fair but firm as they make the way. Alvarez goes a little bit deep on corner exit, and as they head over the crest and down, well, now who's going to emerge the victor coming out of turn number 12 and into 1? Landry on the inside, Alvarez on the outside. They give each other space. Alvarez puts 2 wheels onto the grass. That's going to cost him a little bit of speed in the run to turn 1, but he's still there on the outside. But I think Landry may have this done as they break the way, and you can see under braking now the car sloping forward there as the weight shifts, and that's how hard they're going to compress the brakes now as they head up towards turns 2, 3 and 4, pushing everything they can. And Edwin Offred on the back of this also figured out how he could get into the mix to potentially sneak a P2 in the prime class. He's currently P3. Meanwhile, we look to Ranieri and Dibble. And then into turn 1 here, Dibble on the inside, Ranieri on the outside. They come over through and up the hill, and Ranieri's still going to be there as they ascend. And now they begin the descent over the bridge of turn 2. Into 3 they go. Ranieri outside here, but he's going to run out of space. He just about stays on the circuit there. My goodness, going to use a little bit of liberal use of the escape road, but to be fair, I don't think anybody can blame him. But in the end, Dibble holding the position firm. Great racing respect shown between the pro pair, as meanwhile John Kroom and Avon Dorsey are on the back of this now. And it's the Prime and the Am drive both looking at this and thinking, how can they get in the mix to get a few more points in this championship? But meanwhile, we look back from them up to what is the leader of James Carr, and Carr has been closed up to by Logan McKenzie. And of course, these two no strangers to one another. They've raced touring cars in the Alpha Touring Challenge on a regular basis. They're here, they're racing Toyota GR86s, and whilst they may be in different classes, one thing stays the same: they're friends off circuit but bitter rivals on the circuit. And as they make their way on through, well, right now no exchange. Meanwhile, Harris versus Jordan Butler in the battle for his P7. The Rockefeller Racing Peak driver around the outside of Butler in the run down. The DNA Motorsports driver lets this go with 2 more laps to go based on the time remaining. And I think for Butler it's all going to be about the final laps, as meanwhile Adam Ballard loses it. It's into the wall for Ballard, and as they come over over the ridge. My good lord! In the end, Ballard just simply has to try and get the car going, but Aaron Lahr falls victim there, time to take evasive action and can't settle the car down, and Aaron Lahr's race unfolds in tragedy. It's a disaster for the privateer after what's looking to be so strong. He's had to be towed to the pits, and that will be his race in ruins with only 2 laps left. But as they make the way up towards turn number 5 here, we look back to the leader of James' car. He is still 5 tenths clearance for him. Adam Ballard, after that contact with all, has had to be towed. We expect that, to be fair. It was a nasty knock to the inside bridge wall coming out of 10 and into 11. Both tries are okay. They're just a little bit shell-shocked from what's happened, as we're to understand. But now James' car runs a bit wide at 6. He's pushing it so hard. He's got the dirty of Glenn Bratton. I think Glenn Bratton's decided to go off circuit there to steer clear. Such is respect for the blue flags. And as they make their way down the back straight, well, McKenzie only half a second off his body, thinking, what do I have to do to get close enough to James' car? He just seems unstoppable. And will you be correct there, for the simple reason that James' car, since he's taken the lead of this race, he has not shown any signs of letting it go. He wants it all to himself. As they make their way down towards 10A and 10B, into the chicane they go. Will Jason Landry here, now trying to pick his way past Francois Schick. He found Alvarez a little bit earlier on, and now he's got one more to do. And as he heads up the hill here, looking to get the run into turn number 12. Will Schick's going to leave the door open here, expecting he can take the natural racing line. They make their way past the curb camera here. Oh, 6 drives in quick succession. And you can see Landry on the inside as they make their way onto the final lap. He sets the fastest lap of the race of 36.203. My good lord, that is 3 tenths faster than what anybody else has been able to do here today. And as they head up the hill, it's still side by side as they head up to the ridge of 2 and into 3. Landry's outside to inside. This will cover him off nicely, and Landry retakes P3. He's having a last gasp, but this is going to go hunting on the final lap. It's a whole second to Logan McKenzie. I don't think he's got enough time to potentially recover the lead of this race. I think P2 in class and P3 overall is the best he can get here for Sunday GT Turtles, unless there's drama up front. Meanwhile, Francois Schick with a poor run for turn 5. He's going to defend here into turn number 6. You can see trying to go round the outside is Alberto Alvarez, and Alvarez once again trying to pick up the pieces after losing out the lead of the class at the late stages. But as they make their way into turn 7, Schick digging in here and not letting go as they make their way out of the corner, and now charging on down the back straight. They're running out of overtaking opportunities, and there's only really one more place to go for a grandiose overtaking. Then it's all about the run to the finish line, and as Schick here looks to try and gain the speed in the toe of Jason Landry, in return Alvarez will be hoping that Landry will give him a little bit of time in return. But I think here the toe's being given primarily to Schick as they make the way on down, but they're still side by side, and Alvarez here has found a bit of overspeed. Meanwhile, you can see up front that James' car still leading into the braking zone. He looks safe, and it looks like it's said and done for the leaders. They all come on through, but here is James' car, and as he makes his way across the ridge and down, I think he's done it for as he comes to the final corner. He's had to fight hard, he's had to fight from start to finish, but he will be your winner in round 9 at Road Atlanta. James' car wins in the pro and overall categories ahead of your prime winner Logan McKenzie, Jason Landry P3, and then Alberto Alvarez P4 ahead of Francois Schick, with Edwin Offred P6 in the end. And it's a whole 10 seconds to P7 Milan Harris, who finishes off P4 in the pro class, P7 overall ahead of Jordan Butler, with Samuel Bernardi making it another AM win, returning to winning ways. And then we can see Samuel Cran completes the top 10 ahead of best of rest Tanner Dibble there, who held off John Kroom, Avon Dorsey and Carl Ranieri to line, with Kroom ahead of Dorsey and then Carl Ranieri behind. And then it will be after him Jerome Bajulas, who in the end finishes P15, P7 in the pro class. I think he felt there's more there today. Don Cepek P60, Jay DeVries on his debut, an excellent P17, P8 in the pro class. Dan Bishop will come home in P18 there as he makes his way to the line, and he'll be ahead of a Gus Blondell, who's making his way through the final corners now. And see Blondell from Assholes Motorsports has held on to P4 in the AM class ahead of Linger, who will finish P5 in the class, P20 overall, in a great debut for the 247 Red Bull machine. And Ian Hennebury P21 ahead of Billman DaCosta, and it'll be Nick Bader who will shortly come to the line. What is there, the best part of 14 seconds back, in fact 19 seconds back we should say, as the 233 driver makes his way on down here to the finish. He's a little way back, but give everyone a round of applause, ladies and gents, because it has been a spectacle up and down the field. There's no question about it. And then it will be Aaron Lahr who follows him through for P24 as he comes on down. heading on through the final quarter here in a difficult end to his day, but still crossing the line to pick up points ahead of Adam J. Ballard, and that will complete all our drives who finished on the lead lap. We did have what was Glenn Bratton finish a lap down, P26, but what a race to the end, and well, congratulations to all of our drivers. And as we see Logan McKenzie there coming on through on a cool down lap and decided to do one more as well. James Carr in the end absolutely storming to the lead and holding off Jason Landry, as we can see there, Landry and McKenzie having a little bit of a chat to one another. I think having enjoyed the race so much, but goodness me, what a race from start to finish. And well, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. Well, we can see here after 30 minutes of racing action in round 9 in the middle of the pack Racing League cruising USA GR86 Championship today, kicking off the Southern State Cup, of course, at Road Atlanta in the state of Georgia. James D. Carr taking the win in the end by 4 tenths over Logan McKenzie, the pro class winner, beating the prime class winner over the line. But the privateer Logan McKenzie once again putting himself on the top step on the prime podium and thwarting the charge of his peers. Jason Landry P3, the Sunday GT Turtles driver, I don't think will quite believe it that he's been beaten to the post today, but he has. But it's not going to dent his championship lead too much, given how they all relatively line up in the championship at the moment. But I think he will know now that he's going to have to bounce back in a week's time if he wants to try and conclude the championship early. Still, the Sunday GT Turtles driver, they rounded off our overall podium ahead of Alberto Alvarez, P4 overall, P2 in the prime class, and the Pan Am Racing driver at 1 point leading the class, but it wasn't to be his today, and he'll be definitely going back to the drawing board and thinking, what do I need to do in order to pick up 3 wins in a row now in order to take it all the way to the wire. Meanwhile, Franz Washing in P5 there, wrapping up the pro podium in another strong drive from the privateer ahead of Edwin Offre, who snuck his way to P6, and the middle of the pack Jedi driver definitely an outside threat and on the prime podium deservedly ahead of Rockefeller Racing Pink's Milan Harris P7, and it was Jordan Butler ahead of Samuel Bernardi with the DNA Motorsports driver. They're having a relatively quiet race after quite a slow start, but picked his way up the order, and Samuel Bernardi P9 the privateer, another AM class win, definitely on form and looking to try and push that championship forward and get back in the hunt of Fernando Takahashi. P10 to Samuel Cran for Bear Poke Racing, completing the top 10 there in another quiet but still determined drive, and Tanner Dibble best rest in P11 for DNA Motorsports, not quite able to bring on home a top 10 finish overall, but still he'll know there's plenty more out there given the pace he brought to the table, and it was an early incident that cost him dear. John Kroom on his debut for Rockefeller Racing Pink, a deserved P12 there, or what was in class a P6, and he'll be happy with that. He'll take motivation from that. Avon Dorsey at P2 in the AM class, P13 overall for Rockefeller Racing White, with another strong result seeing him gain more points in the championship. And then Carl Ranieri ahead of Jerome Magellan's P14 at P15, with the Vivas Energy drive being followed up by Bear Pope Races Donald Seep at P16. And then Jay DeVries at P17 on his debut, a good performance there in the Pro Am class. The privateer picking up the effective P18 class with Dan Victor P18, the AM driver, with a 3rd place in the AM class, round off the AM podium. We continue our way on down the standings. Augusta Blondell P19 for Hassels Motorsports ahead of newcomer, what was there, Dylan Villinger, who completed the top 20. Again, a good performance from the Red Bull privateer. And then P21, Ian Hennebury, not to be his day today for Bear Pope Zero, nor the same for Billman DaCosta, but still they've got plenty of positives to take from today. And then Nick Bader P23 ahead of Aaron Lahr and Adam J. Ballard, who completed our finishers on the lead lap in P25. We had one more finisher, a lap down, and that was Glenn Bratton. And then our finishers, we have Jordan Hooks there, the debutant, 3 laps down at the end, a difficult end to his race, but P27, and I think he'll take plenty from today and look forward to next week, with James Logsdon P28 with that late instant costing very dear for Bear Pope Racing, retiring 11 laps on the finish. And as we continue our way on down the finishing order there, we can see Ilya Speaker P29 for Rockefeller Racing Pink, not his day today for Ilya Speaker, and also there John Lauzon completing the top 30, and the bad luck for the Bivas Energy driver does continue to follow him ahead of Jermaine Warren for MOP Sif, and then Matt Underkoffler ahead of Mark Senegal to complete our finishing positions of our 33 drives. It was 26 to the finish and 25 of them on the lead lap. But as we look to what lies in wait, ladies and gentlemen, well, we are going to have to wait now for a week because the race that has concluded today at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and that means it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the middle of the pack racing at league community, then why not check out either our official Discord, invite link available on screen, particularly if you're sat there right now thinking that you love the look of the format of the middle of the pack racing league series. Unfortunately, I do have to tell you that if you do want to get on the grid for the GR86 Championship, you'll not be able to now, given the fact we are in the final cup and therefore all entries have closed. But we are looking to run more championships later this year, and that's why we definitely recommend you do join the Discord in case you're interested in what's still to come. Can't tell you all about that at the moment, but we may be able to tell you a little bit more in the final couple of rounds of this series. Alternatively, if you don't want to join the Discord, you're always welcome to follow us on social media at our Twitter page, and that's at twitter.com/MOP Racing, where you can keep up to date with the latest series and all the latest exploits of the official Middle of the Pack Racing League eSport teams. But looking ahead to next time now, of course, round 9 was today, and round 10 in a week's time will be at the Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. A very different type of circuit compared to our circuit for today, and as our drivers continue to wind their way towards the end of their overall championship campaigns, every point is going to be crucial, and Barber Motorsports Park may be the key for some drivers to unlock their full potential. The racing will occur as of Wednesday next week. Of course, it will be on Wednesday the 29th of March, but join us on Saturday the 1st of April 2023. It's no fools, it's no joke on April Fool's Day, as our drivers will take to the circuit and will bring you all the racing action as if it were live, and who will be able to stand out and be stellar at Barber Motorsports Park. But until then, it's goodbye from us at Middle of the Pack Racing League. It's goodbye from me as your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain of Spit. And until next time, have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.